Ladies and gentlemen, my last chat with Andres Perez was a complete and total fucking bomb. So now I'm gonna review something that's totally gonna get me some views. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you Ishiro Honda's Gorath.
どこで生きても流れ物どうせさすらい独り身の明日はどこやら風に聞け可愛いあの子の胸に聞けあ東京流れ物流れ果てない旅に出ていつか忘れた東京の泣いてくれるな夜の雨男命は赤く散るあ東京流れ物
I'll be completely honest, I never saw this movie before. I never did. It wasn't until recently when, luckily, somebody on Toho Nation said, you can view it here, subtitled, so, you know, I could understand it. And I watched it, and it was really good. It was really good. In fact, it was better than good. It was excellent. I know, like, people like Andres Perez don't really like it because, you know, they're stupid, and, you know, he doesn't like science, but I love science. I love the technobabble, hence why I like Battle in Outer Space so much. So, and this movie was very much on the same route, except it had better characters. Overall, this is a very good movie. It has some big motherfucking problems with it, and I'm going to bring those up first, because, let me tell you, they are some really big motherfucking problems. You know, overall, it was a really good movie. It really was. In fact, it screamed Ishiro Honda throughout the entire thing, and let me tell you right now that I can really understand why King Kong vs. Godzilla special effects are kind of lackluster, because clearly they all went into this movie. But let's just dive right on into this review. I have no idea how long this review is going to be, but all I can say is that this movie is really good, and any Ishiro Honda movie, any Ishiro Honda fan should really go check it out. But that being said, this is Gorath. Now, let's start off with the two things in this movie. There's two things in this movie that really kind of bugged me. And normally, because this took place in the 60s, I wouldn't really mind. I really wouldn't mind there being some science mishaps, because, I mean, let's look at Battle in Outer Space, for example. Battle in Outer Space, the only way, you just need to be careful in order to avoid, you know, the no-gravity thing. No, that doesn't happen. There's no gravity, there's no gravity. There's nothing you can hold on to. Unless you're, you know, physically holding on to something. And, you know, I can look past that because guess what? At that time, we didn't really go out into space yet. And considering how accurate everything else was, I was like, yeah, this is actually really good. So I looked past that and I wasn't going to complain about it. In this movie, there's this one big thing that I will complain about with the science, and I bet you a lot of people who already remotely know what Gorath's plot is already know what I'm going to complain about. It's the Earth moving. Alright, I'm just going to come out and say it's the Earth moving. Normally, I wouldn't complain about this, but here's the thing. With Gorath, that is the central fucking thing with the movie. You can't move the Earth. You can't. I mean, I talked with Super DM about this, about the idea of them moving the Earth, and he had pretty much the same problem as I did, is if they introduce something kind of pseudoscience-y where it's like, oh, let's build a shield to, you know, cover the Earth to keep everything good, I would have bought it a little more, you know, like if they put like a force field around the Earth so like we wouldn't get into the sun's rays or whatever, that would have worked for me. It really would have. It would have been a stretch, but it would have been enough to make me say, this is okay. I can look past the fact now that they're moving the fucking Earth. But you know, okay, let me get into this, because I'm a very science-related guy, and I'm like, why? You can't do this. Alright, so they move the Earth, and because Gorath is going to collide with the Earth. That's the premise of the movie. That is literally the premise of the movie. Gorath is going to collide with the Earth, let's move the Earth. Now, how they go to that is actually interesting, because at first they're like, well, let's shoot nukes at it. That didn't work, so let's actually move the Earth. Okay, a bit of a stretch, but let's do it anyways. And, you know, granted, the whole process in which it goes through is pretty good, but you can't move the fucking Earth. You just can't! And even back in 1962, they knew that you can't move the Earth. You can't move the Earth. The science is not sound. If you move the Earth too far one direction, guess what? We're all gonna fucking freeze to death. If you move it in one direction, or in the complete total opposite direction, we're all gonna burn into a fucking cinder. Alright? And on top of that, when they move the Earth, they don't count for the fact that in order for us to stay down on this Earth, there needs to be something called gravity that's pulling us down towards the core. Alright? And so when they're moving this Earth, they don't even have like this fictional rotation thing going on. When they're moving it, they're just literally moving the fucking Earth. You can't do that. You know why? Because we'd be all floating into fucking space. There's no joking with that. We'd all die. I'd rather take my chances getting hit with a giant fucking giant Gorath than freaking, you know, moving the Earth where we know we're gonna die. No matter which way you look at it, if they move the Earth, like how they did in this movie, we're going to die. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We are going to fucking die. I will take my chance with the fact that Gorath is 6,000 times greater than the mass of Earth coming by us. Sure, we'd still probably all die, but we have more of a chance of living that way than if we move the Earth. Then on top of that, when Gorath starts coming towards us, Gorath collides with the moon. Okay, so whatever fuckness we are right now, we're even more fucked. Because now we're not going to have any tides, we're not going to have any light down on Earth, you know, at nighttime anymore. A lot of animals are going to be fucked up. Hell, we're going to be fucked up. Seasons are going to change completely. Yeah, I would have just taken my chance with Gorath. And you know, the problem that I have with it is that, you know, everything is portrayed normally. You know, I saw the trailers for this movie and I saw a lot of devastation and I saw a lot of like tidal waves and earthquakes and shit like that. And that does happen in the movie, but in the movie that happens because of Gorath. I was honestly expecting that to happen because it was because we were moving the Earth and therefore everything was going to work. And everything had to, or everything was going to, everything on Earth would be fucked up because we're moving the Earth. And I was like, okay. And that's what I was expecting in my head. So I was like, okay, maybe I can buy this because they're clearly showing a lot of devastation. But no, it's because Gorath's gravitational pull is like raising the waters and stuff like that, which is actually accurate. I'm not going to deny that. That's actually pretty goddamn accurate because let's face it. I mean, you have this big thing that's apparently 6,000 to 11,000 times the mass of Earth because it grows throughout the course of the movie, and it would tug on the water. So I genuinely thought like the scenes when Tokyo gets flooded were good and actually relatively accurate. But you know, I wouldn't even really be complaining about the fact that they moved the Earth. Even if it was the central part of the movie, if this movie was made in like the 50s, if this movie was made in the 50s, actually, you know what? I still would have complained about this goddamn movie because we started realizing that the Earth is on this rotational field, though it wasn't really accepted in the fucking 1500s. 1500s. That's several hundred years before this movie was made. That's several hundred years before this movie was made. Now think about that, okay? Think about it. Alright, just with that thing, or with that logic in your mind, when you watch this movie, you're probably going to laugh. Because, and you know, I really didn't want to complain about it. I really did not want to complain about this with this movie. And I really am going to go on this huge diatribe about it, because it just kept bugging me. As good as the movie is, it kept bugging me throughout the entire thing. You cannot move the Earth. It is impossible. Well, it's not impossible, but if you move it, we're fucked. Okay? We are fucked. How would Ishiro Honda wind up greenlighting that idea without having like some force field around it? It's beyond me. I think he might have stayed a little too long in one of those opium tents in China while he was serving the Japanese Imperial Army. Now here's the other thing I want to complain about. I want to complain about magma. Or maguma, or however the hell you pronounce it. It's a giant fucking walrus. Which walruses freak me out anyways. So, okay, that's kind of a good thing. But anyways. This movie didn't need a kaiju. It didn't. Why is magma in here? To get more of an audience for the movie. Now, apparently in the English version, which I haven't seen, I've only seen the Japanese cut, Maguma is not in there. He's not in there. And a lot of people have said that's, who've seen the movie, which if you had, good for you, have said that Maguma not being in there, or Magma, I'm going to call him Magma, Magma not being in there actually kind of added to the story because it added another level of believability to it. Which, as soon as you can buy the fact that they're moving the fucking Earth, yeah, you can buy anything in this movie. But the fact that, you know, I couldn't, you know, whatever. I mean, it was entertaining to watch. Maguma was entertaining to watch, and the reason why he's there actually is a legit reason. Because the humans have put all these jets at the South Pole, it's basically heating up the South Pole. And so he was frozen in a block of ice, or maybe he wasn't even... They just sort of theorized like he was either frozen in a block of ice, or maybe he was just used to the coolness of the area. Now that it's heating up, he just wants... Magma is destroying the reactors that are powering the jets simply because he wants the South Pole to return to normal. That's actually a legit reason why he should be there, because, believe it or not, I can actually picture that happening. My problem with it is that it didn't need to be there. It literally felt like in this movie that Magma... and turns out he was thrown in there at the last second. And, you know, if he played more of a role in the movie, like if he was like a legit huge fucking threat to the South Pole operation, which he is, but it's really played down in this film, I would have bought it a lot more. Like if he was introduced a lot earlier on in the movie, and then he kind of played a role throughout most of it, I would have bought it a lot more. Like he was just this kind of threat. But you know, he's killed so easily. He really is killed easily. Despite some great visual effects, he's killed so easily, and he's just kind of cast off immediately. And that's what left me saying, did he need to be in there? And the answer truly was no. He really didn't. So believe it or not, I actually kind of prefer the idea that he was cut out in the American version. I actually kind of agree with that. Granted, the visual effects on Magma were fantastic. They really were. His roar is good. I thought the suit looked excellent. It actually looked like a walrus. I just thought the fight scene with him, though really short, I thought it was still entertaining to watch. But I just felt like he wasn't needed. And that truly was the problem, was he wasn't really needed. And so I'm definitely going to dock some points for that. But it was still entertaining. I'm not gonna argue with that. I mean, any kaiju fan likes to see any giant monster no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, look at the alternate ending to Frankenstein Conquers the World. You have a giant fucking octopus that comes out of fucking nowhere. Anyways, I digress. But you know, those are really the only two things that I had to complain about this movie. Or to complain about Gorath. And you know, that's... Magma I could kind of look past. I really could kind of look past them because I like giant monsters. What kaiju fan would I not be if I didn't like giant monsters? You know what that means? I wouldn't be a kaiju fan. But moving the Earth was just such a big problem for me because I kept thinking about it throughout the entire thing. I kept telling myself if I kept forgetting about it, I wouldn't really be as angry with it as I am. But I kept thinking about it every time I sat down to watch it. So anyways, let's get into the good with the movie. I just want to say right now that this movie really kind of pulled me in, despite the Earth being moved. It really pulled me in, and I got really invested, and a lot of that has to do with how kick-ass the opening scene is. Now, we have that guy who plays the captain on Atragon, who's one of my favorite actors of all time because of his portrayal of the captain in Atragon. He plays the captain of the spaceship that's going out to explore, I believe it was Jupiter. 2001, anybody. Anyways. But him and his crew go out into space, they're all happy, but then they receive word of this rogue planet that's going to collide with Earth, called Gorath, and basically what they do is they have to collide with it to see if they could destroy it, or else it's going to hit the Earth. That is a really good opening scene, and it's powerful. It really is a powerful scene. And again, I think this is also, I might as well talk about it now, it has a testament to the music. The music wasn't done by Akira Ifukube. I totally forgot what the guy's name who did the music was for it. But you know what? He did an excellent job. In fact, his music sounded akin to Miklos Rosa, who did the music for movies such as Ed Cid, King of Kings, and most notably, Ben-Hur. It was that good. And it's powerful music during this scene. Really powerful music. And I also like, it also just immediately sets up the relationship where you sympathize with a lot of these people on the ship. The captain is very much kind of like that rough and gruff kind of guy. He's clearly done this before, or been out to space several times before, while his crew is a little bit more inexperienced, especially his number 2 person. And just kind of the small banter that they have at the beginning, where his number 2 guy is really kind of up and jumpy and bumping around all over the place, happy to be out in space, while the captain is very much more reserved. He's like, let's just get the job done, because he's seen it before. So when they collide with Earth, when they collide with Gorath, it is a really powerful scene. And even his funeral, the captain's funeral, is a really powerful scene, because beforehand we see this, the main female lead, she's playing with Koei Mizuno, and you know, she's very happy and stuff like that. She's very kind of giddy, she's bouncing all over the place, and then after her father dies, her character completely changes into somebody who speaks rather monotone, who's very, very somber. But basically what really drove me into this movie is just the opening scene. And I also really got drove into this movie because the acting was really good. Ryo Ikebe did a phenomenal job as the male lead in this movie. Hell, Akira Kubo was really good. And you know what? There was a little bit of comedy in this movie. Especially with Akira Kubo's character, which I felt fit. You know why? Because I laughed. A lot of times in kaiju movies, when there's... this isn't even a kaiju movie. It is a sci-fi opera. This is a space opera. Like Battle in Outer Space. In Battle in Outer Space, there's some comedy in there, and it didn't work. I didn't laugh. In this movie, I laughed. Basically, if I'm going to sum this thing up in a nutshell, this is basically Battle in Outer Space done right. If you didn't like Battle in Outer Space, you'd like the Mysterians or Gorath. But Ryo Ikebe did a phenomenal job as the main lead in this movie. I love his relationship with that lead female character. They never kiss, they hug. I think that's just an Ishiro Honda thing. I guess he was very uncomfortable shooting those kind of scenes, which I find funny because he did such a phenomenal job with that in Matango. But, you know, the relationship with Ryo Ikebe's character and the main female lead is actually a really good one. Where, like, they hug, they don't kiss. And you can still tell that they care about each other, even though they'd never have any of that real, true physical contact. Which, believe it or not, I think Guillermo del Toro kind of was paying homage to in Pacific Rim. But, not to this specific example, but what Ishiro Honda does with this stuff. He usually does a very good job with that, Ishiro Honda. And he does in this movie. But, you know, all the characters in this movie kind of just... Though, there's only like 2 characters that are really 3-dimensional in this movie. One is Akira Kubo, and the other one is the main female lead. I still like the characters. They were likable characters, you know, that's the thing. They didn't... I watched this, and I didn't necessarily feel like they had to be 3-dimensional. In fact, a lot of this movie, much like a lot of other Eiji Tsuburaya special effects epics, a lot of them felt like a docudrama. For a lot of this movie, it did. It felt kind of like a docudrama, which I love docudramas. I love that genre. The genre needs to come back. So I really did enjoy it. I really, really did enjoy it. Let's see, who else did I really... Oh yeah, Takashi Shimura is in it, which if you don't know who Takashi Shimura is, he played Dr. Yamane in the original Godzilla, or my personal favorite role that he played in, the main character in Akiru. You know, he's a scientist in this movie, and you know, I felt like at first that he was just going to be in it as a cameo, because you don't see him for a while until like the second half of the movie. You see him for a little bit at the main female lead's father's funeral, but then you don't see him until like the second half, well through the second half of the movie when Meguma really arrives again. And you know what, there's such an Ishiro Honda scene when they're about to kill Meguma, or when they're about to kill Magma, and that is, he goes, I wish we didn't have to kill it. He's just an animal fighting on his own instincts. We could even study him and learn a lot. But ultimately, he agrees with Ryo Ikebe that saving the Earth is ultimately more important. That is such an Ishiro Honda scene, where he always presents this other side to the story. Hell, in the original Godzilla, that's what made Dr. Yamane so interesting on the original Godzilla, is that, you know, Dr. Yamane didn't want to see Godzilla killed. He wanted to see him studied and analyzed. And even though Dr. Yamane sort of reservedly goes along with that they need to kill Godzilla, especially after his first attack, you know, he still wanted to see Godzilla studied. And this is very much kind of like what Takashi Shimura's character is in this movie. That is a really good scene in the fighter jet that they're going to kill Magma in. It is. It's a very Ishiro Honda thing. The other thing that's very Ishiro Honda-esque in this movie that I love are the UN scenes. One thing, if there's one thing that Ishiro Honda can direct, it is a good UN scene. I love the scene where Earth unites and says, we have to stop. We're all going to die. We have to move the Earth or else we're all going to fucking die, which we'd all die anyways if you move there. Anyway, whatever. And, you know, it is a very good scene. Let's see. Why is it a good scene? Well, there's a lot of banters. He also gives, like in Battle in Outer Space, he also gives smaller countries basically a say in what's going on. He gives like the Philippines time to speak. He gives, and you know, he doesn't just give the stereotypical countries time to speak. You know, he gave all these little tiny countries time to speak during a UN meeting, and it's very effective. It's very effective. And another thing that I really like about this, and this is just a testament, I think, to Ishiro Honda, when the English actors were speaking, in a lot of movies where I watch it, because I always love watching them in the original Japanese dialogue, in a lot of movies when the English actors are speaking, I can barely understand them. I mean, I can tell that they're acting, but I can barely understand them, because I can tell that they weren't originally actors, they needed Caucasian actors. Or they just needed Caucasian extras or whatever. In this movie, I could understand them. Like, especially Ryo Wakabe's kind of like #2 guy that works them down in the South Pole base. He actually did a really phenomenal job. Like, well, I bet you he was an actor, that's why. But, Jesus, like, during the scene when Gorath is about to collide with Earth and, like, the whole countdown to 2 minutes at the ending of the movie, because they have this really intense countdown. It's really intense. The ending of this movie is really actually intense. Like, I was legitimately lying down in bed, because I watched it at night, and I was legitimately, like, leaning forward. I was like, I want to know, are they going to make it or are they not? Even though I was pretty sure they were going to make it anyways. But I was still, you know, that's just another power to the writers, to the visual effects crew, to the music, to everybody on this movie. Was that I was legitimately on edge throughout this entire movie. And that's just a great testament to all of them. Like, this is such a good movie. It really is a good movie, despite those complaints that I had at the beginning of the movie. Though, the one on Moving Earth is really big. Also, I just want to say, like, this movie is very much so... Yeah, I shaved my head. This is very much so reminiscent or very similar to a George Pal movie called When Worlds Collide, when basically this rogue planet's about to collide with Earth. Now, the big difference with Gorath in that movie is, and a lot of people did draw similarities between the two, because believe it or not, there is a lot there, but yet they're also a lot different in many ways. When World collides, we evacuate the Earth. That's what happens. They evacuated Earth. It's a phenomenal movie. Really, if you haven't seen it, seriously check it out. But granted, this is also a new idea. This was a new idea and it was something original to add to this sort of stereotypical idea that the Earth is going to die. Which we would have died anyways. But, you know, those comparisons to When Worlds Collide and Gorath are justified. They really are justified. Seriously, if you haven't seen When Worlds Collide, seriously watch it. It's really good as well. Nowhere near as good as War of the Worlds, but I digress. Now, another thing I really want to talk about in this movie are the visual effects. Some of Eiji Tsuburaya's best I have ever seen. The South Pole base is so well detailed. So fucking well detailed. I can now see, as I stated earlier, why King Kong vs. Godzilla's visual effects were kind of lackluster, because clearly all of his effort really went into this movie. The South Pole base had so many intricate little tiny models. You'd have close-ups with these bulldozers digging into the earth, and then you have these really wide shots of all the buildings with even smaller miniatures digging into the earth, and they all matched up exactly. You had great double projections with the humans walking around handing papers to each other with the miniatures in the background. Great compositions there, great matte paintings. Gorath is phenomenal. In fact, I don't really know how they did it. I'm pretty sure they just had like a ball and they were spinning it and it was glowing, but Gorath's design was really cool and really fucking well done. It looked really good. And the double projection compositions, especially the opening scene when the ship collides with Gorath, is some of the best I've ever seen. It looks so good. And the camera work also adds to it. Everything matches up. Everything is really intricately put together. Everything is intricately added up. And really, I could see that Eiji Tsuburaya and his team, because it wasn't all Eiji Tsuburaya. I think that's a lot of things that... I think that's one of the things that a lot of fans of the Toho science fiction movies in the Golden Age really kind of misrepresent, is they think Eiji Tsuburaya did all the work. No, there's a lot of other people who did it too, and they all deserve the goddamn credit for this movie, because the visual effects are so outstandingly well done. I'm going to basically say the same thing for this as I said with Battle in Outer Space. If for no other reason you watch this movie, watch the movie for the breathtaking visual effects. They are breathtaking. In some of the scenes, like when Tokyo gets flooded because Gorath is flying over, I could not tell those were miniatures. In fact, I didn't know they were miniatures until I started seeing the water gushing onto the stage in which they were put on. And I was like, oh my god, those are miniatures? And I think a lot of it had to do with the great ominous lighting that was thrown on them. And in fact, that's another thing that makes frickin' War of the Gargantuas work so well, is that the miniatures were built to a larger scale, and I could tell that they were built to a larger scale on this one as well. And then of course you have the South Pole base, and you have all of these things. You have all of these jets that are shooting flames out of them, and there's these great wide shots of the camera just panning over, and you just see all of these little tiny, flames shooting out of the soundstage, and it looks so good. It legitimately made me feel like this is important and this is huge. And just a freaking testament to the visual effects on this movie. Outstanding! In fact, movies today should take note at how good the visual effects are. And unfortunately, this movie, in terms of getting a wider release in the world, was a complete and total bomb, wherever it was released. And unfortunately, because of that, a lot of people really look over this and they look for other Eiji Tsuburaya movies to really compare this to, Battle in Outer Space being the one true exception. This movie really has some of Eiji Tsuburaya's best work, not only in terms of miniatures or destruction scenes, but some wire workings as well. When you're out in space, you can't see the wires. Everything was accurately detailed, including the backdrop of space being black and not a dark shade of blue, like we got in the Mysterians. So again, this is why I say this is Battle in Outer Space done better, was because there's a lot of science stuff in Battle in Outer Space, but it doesn't focus on the story. In this movie, there's a great balance between story and the science stuff, other than them moving the Earth. But everything else is pretty sound. I'm not gonna deny that. Everything else is pretty goddamn sound, especially when they're moving the Earth for the first time. As much as I wanted to, strangle the writers for wanting to move the Earth in the first place, because that's just a dumb idea. Let me tell you how many reasons why that's a bad idea. Yes, I just quoted Batman. The music is building up, and again, this is just a testament to the music as well. The music is absolutely phenomenal. The music is so good. But the Earth is moving away, and it's very slow, but the music is so good. It is so good. It just builds up the tension. And when everyone is happy, the music swells, and there's certain scenes on this movie where the music just swells and just really captivates the feeling of this movie. And despite the fact that, I wanted, if Akira Ifukube did the music for this movie, it would have been excellent. But to be honest, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, I'm glad he didn't score this movie, because then we wouldn't have gotten this soundtrack. This soundtrack is so good. Maybe we would have gotten Akira Ifukube's best soundtrack with this film. I don't know, but let's look at the reality for a second here. This soundtrack is phenomenal. Luckily, people on YouTube, Kinemasifina, have uploaded bits and pieces of the soundtrack. Unfortunately, no one has uploaded the entire soundtrack in its full, which is unfortunate. I really want to see somebody, Gorath, upload the entire soundtrack. So I can rip it off and, listen to it in my spare time. But people have uploaded bits and pieces of it. Seriously, give it a listen. And even some of it sounds like Akira Ifukube. Like the violin parts on the opening credits. A part of me is like, maybe he was hired because Akira Ifukube was working on something else and he just didn't have the time to do the music for such a big film. And so they hired somebody who maybe couldn't have imitated Akira Ifukube, because I can definitely see that. But especially with the violent violin parts. But also the music for this movie, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it's akin to Micros Rosa. There's this huge epic score here. There really is this huge epic score going on. It really is just damn good. And really everything in this movie works. The cinematography is phenomenal. I mean, it's full of Ishiro Honda moments where, like the camera zooms in or zooms out, or pans in and pans out. That's a staple of Ishiro Honda. The cinematography is just good. Everything really kind of adds up in this movie, other than them moving the Earth, which is unfortunate because that is a big part of the movie. But there's a lot of good stuff in this movie. To me, the good outweighs the bad by a long shot. It really does. This movie is excellent. If you're an Ishiro Honda fan, you need to give this a watch. This isn't like something you can glance over, like unfortunately a lot of people have, including myself until recently. You have to watch this movie. It is that good. It really is that good. Am I going to give it 4 out of 4? I'm not. I have such a big problem with them moving the Earth that I was actually going to give it a 3 out of 4. But then I kept thinking about how much I enjoyed and how much I was actually still on my seat, even with that in the back of my mind. I said, because of that, I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 4. It is a really good movie. You seriously need to fucking watch it. It is online for free. You can find it. Just type it up on Google Videos. You can find it up in full for free with English subtitles. English subtitles, so you can understand it if you don't know Japanese. Seriously, give it a watch. It is outstanding and you will not regret it.